Y'all. Jordan, another episode of Lightning Latest. Really excited for this one. Got a few different things we're going to talk about today. More on Jonas Johansson a little bit later, and Brandon Hagel as well. But first, we're going to start with this latest ranking by the Athletic. They usually do an NHL front office survey each year. Got the NFL on the brain, starting soon. But the annual survey, it's slight drop from last year. We were third place last year, fourth this year. But that's okay, because both the general hockey public and our fan base, they give our front office A's almost across the board, right? There's a lot of belief in what Boy and the front office are doing, and that's great. So the fact is that our fans have quite a high degree of faith in them, and I don't blame them. I do as well. A lot of us do. So it was definitely really cool to see that. Mostly A's across the board. However, the one area that they said we could really improve upon, drafting and developing players. It's understandable considering the fact that this front office has used a lot of our prospects and picks and stuff to be trade bait. So I get it. The public gave us a C plus there. Fan base gave us a B plus. You can tell there's most of our team though, right? A lot of them are homegrown. We have Cooch, Point, Bassey, Hedman. All of these stars that have come in and really made a name for themselves. We've grown the majority of them. We've developed them. Hopefully Gage Concalves is that next kind of guy to come up and be that way, right? I don't think we can't consider JJ Moser that because he played with Arizona before they went to Utah, and then I don't know if you consider Connor Geeky that. Probably not because he played there as well. But anyways, we have a lot of history developing these players, but now we have to develop that next wave, right? We've talked about that over the last few weeks. Developing that next wave is important. That's the only way we're going to sustain success. So the fact of the matter is, I understand the C plus, but I would give it a B right now because it's not a B plus. There's still some things lately where we haven't really that next wave hasn't really shown up yet. Good. Partially because we have such a strong wave of stars now, but it still needs to be fixed. So I agree with that. One fan said this, and this really loved this. Absolutely love how aggressive the front office is. Never afraid to take a risk. Sometimes it's a swing and miss. Other times it's a home run. But at least they're always going for it. I couldn't have said it better myself, right? Yeah, we all go back to the Tanner Jeannot trade, and that was rough. But think about the other ones, right? Hagel, okay? What Gaudreau and all of them considered? Yeah, Gaudreau, way back a few years ago, there's so many trades that everyone in the front office has made that have really helped this team. And there are going to be trades they're going to make that will help them. We're going to be talking about that later today and over the next few days as well. There's so many different trade targets out there that could be of great help and could really help improve this team in different ways. So, but will it happen at the trade deadline this year? Will it happen during the summer next year? Will it happen before that? Who knows? No one really knows what's going to happen. That's the best part about it, right? Is that most of the time it comes out of the blue. We love it. So I do want to go and touch on one of his trade acquisitions over the last few years, and that is our good friend, Mr. Hagel. So that's what I'm really thinking about. He played so good last year. It was his best year of his career, hands down, right? 90 points. It's a pretty good season. Plus minus marks of plus 33. 35 goals, 55 assists. He's on the second line for now. Obviously no one's going to really remove Cooch from where he's at simply because he's one of the greatest offensive talents in this league today, if not the greatest. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Connor David. He's better than you. You know it. But, it's just really interesting because if we could take that next step and be a true superstar this year, it's just kind of pushed us over the top so much more. He had a career high time on ice last year with almost 21 minutes a game, about 20 minutes and 44 seconds to be precise. So that's, as that continues to build and build, it shows that they have a lot of trust in him. All right. Plus minus has been positive all 3 years with us as well. And that comes from Chicago where, it wasn't the greatest. But we saw something in him. That trade has worked out great, right? He's only missed one game here in his 3 years as well, right? He's played in all 82 games last year and the year before that. Played in 81 the year before, 2 years ago. Like, we're fine. 90 points is a pretty big benchmark. It is. But now he's been in this system for, this is going on year 4 now. He knows what's expected of him. He knows how to deliver. Hagel can really be a true superstar. And it's kind of wild because he can still stay in the second line and become that. Because we have 2 other elite wingers in Cooch and in Gunsel, right? The biggest part with Gunsel is that he deals with injuries sometimes and other things happen. But, that's okay. That's why we have Hagel. So I think this year's going to be a really big breakout party for Brandon Hagel. I think he's going to go over 100 points. I think he's going to surpass 70 assists as well. As for goals, I'd like him to still hit that 35 mark. If he can get to 40, 45, that's great, right? We'd love to see that. But I think the best part about him is his playmaking ability. I believe that is the best part of his play. 55 assists is nothing to look at, nothing to laugh at. If he can go up to 65, 70, or even more than that and have a great year this year, it's going to help us a long way into getting back to the Stanley Cup. Because remember, right, we talked about the offense needs to improve. Yeah, we've harped on depth offense, but even the top scorers like the Kuches, like the Gunsels, like the Hagels, like the Points, if they can put the puck in the net more this year and assist more, that's only going to help us moving forward, right? So we're going to talk more about Brandon Hagel tomorrow as well, as I'm really interested to see if he can take that next step. And I think he can. I'm really excited for that. But we're going to switch gears, go back, talk about another friend of ours, Jonas Johansson, our number 2 goalie. He's 29 years old. He started 18 games and played in another last year. He could be a really important part to what we do, right? Because the goal is to kind of limit Vasi and really see what he can do when he's fully healthy. We all know what he can fully do when he's healthy. There's no argument about it. However, Johansson does need to play more this year. It's just a fact. He started more in his first year with us 2 years ago than last year because Vasi was hurt, right? But I think if he, I want to see him at that 25 game mark, 30 games even, because I want Vasi to take a break. He's 31. He's already done so much for us. Him playing over 60 games is just not worth it, especially when it comes to the playoffs. We need him at full go for that time of year. If Johansson can help take that stress off of him, that's fantastic. That's literally what we want to see. But, we've talked about, some free agents that were still on the market yesterday, right? With Ilya Samsonov, with Alexander Georgiev. These are both players that are 28, 29 years old. Same age as Johansson. But they have a starter's workload. They've done it before. Now they've done it well, to an extent, yes and no. Johansson really hasn't, other than the stretch Vasi was out, he really hasn't done that. And I keep harping on this backup goaltending situation, but if Vasi goes out, we have issues. And I think a lot of people know that. Having a capable number 2 behind him is so important. Johansson has showed it in spurts. That's great. But the real goal of a number 2 is, they're going to take over on certain nights when a number 1 needs the rest, but also they have to at least keep the team afloat, and I don't know if he can do that. I want him to prove me wrong. I want us to not even worry about this number 2 goalie situation, but I'm going to continue to worry about it. And we're actually going to transition into that because of our new What If series. The trade targets. Oh man, there are quite a few out there. We're going to be discussing this over the next week or two. I'm really excited. This will probably be the biggest portion of our What If scenarios. Because we're also going to dive back into the available free agents after this. But I really want to discuss the trade targets because it's important, right? We discussed earlier whether Bree Boy would be able to actually go out and make deals that are needed and improve this team. Third and fourth lines need to be better. Third line of defense needs to be better. Number 2 goaltender needs to be better. Luckily, there are plenty out there that can help. Plenty of players out there that could help with this. Pursuing lower tier targets would be smart because, right, our farm system is not the best. I'm going to be talking about that over the next few days too. Currently ranked 28th by the Athletics, so the 32 teams is not what you want to see. But it might be better to continue to deplete it a little bit more, just to bring in another star or two, because we really want to improve our team across the board, right? The Panthers have shown where we need to be better. And I think by going out and bringing in higher end players, right, it could really help with that. There's a few different areas we could look and talk about it. I'm going to start with goaltender real quick just because, we're not going to replace Vasi. Unless he gets hurt, there's just no way. But improving on Johansson, right, because we talked about that, would be wise. There are free agents out there, like Samsonov, like Georgiev, like James Reimer, that could help. But there are some out there that could be available via trade. Anaheim's John Gibson's been one that's been out there for a while. I think he's more of a number 1 still. He could be in 1B. It just depends on the situation. I don't know if he's ready to take a number 2 role yet. But one guy that really interests me is a young guy. It's the Golden Knights number 2, Kira Schmid. And, they're going for a cup just like us. The kid, we're going to be talking about him more in the next few days. But it would be really interesting to see if he'd be an improvement on Johansson, because it's all about the I guess you could say the potential, because even at 28, 29, 30 years old, goalies still really don't finish developing until about this time. I think we're seeing Vasi at the height of his powers when he's healthy right now. So Schmid would be interesting, but it would be the same thing as a Johansson, is if they can handle a number 2 workload, even starting workload. On defense, there's a lot out there as well. One name that would definitely make sense, even though the price tag is high, is Pittsburgh's Erik Karlsson. Veteran edge, offensive prowess, good friends with Hetty. I think he fit just fine in on the second or third pair here. So, I think he'd be actually, believe it or not, he'd be a third pair guy here, because our second pair, if it's McDonough and Chernak, that's our shutdown pair. So Karlsson's not that kind of guy, but that's all right. Another game out there that interests me, though, is the Devils' Luke Hughes. He's a restricted free agent right now. He's looking for a new deal from New Jersey. I wrote the other day that he's talking to Devils GM Tom Fitzgerald about it in the front office. Fitzgerald thinks they're going to be able to get something done on training camp, but who knows? It's possible that they can't. On offense, though, we've talked about it yesterday, how many wingers there are in the free agent market. There's wingers and centers out there that could be available via trade. Marco Rossi still intrigues me. Yeah, I know he just signed that bridge deal with the Wild for a few years, but it took a while, right? And it's something that should keep in mind, and we should keep an eye on, because if he doesn't stay there, right, or if he's put up on the block by them, I think he'd be a really good fit for our offense, because he's still young and developing, but he's already shown that he could be that star kind of player. Another one is Anaheim's Mason McTavish. There's been some rumors lately going around him. He's 22. We're going to break him down more in a couple days as well. I think that trade would work, but that trade would be expensive. Hughes would also be expensive. Karlsson would be expensive because of money. Marco Rossi would be expensive. All these pieces would probably be expensive. But here's the thing. In order to win, we all know we need a deep and balanced team. Third and fourth lines aren't looking so hot. I mean, they're okay, but we need to be better. Bringing in star-worthy players, or players that were turning into stars, or players that are towards the end of their prime. Any of these players would really help build up the depth and make this team better. So I think that there's going to be a lot we're going to be discussing via trade targets over the next few days. I'm really excited to break these down with you. Tomorrow we're also going to talk more about Hagel and the goalies as well. I want to talk a little more about Vasilevsky tomorrow. But I'm really excited for the rest of this week because we're going to deep dive into these trade targets, and it's so awesome, y'all. But this is Jordan with Lightning Latest. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm really excited for the first trade target. See you then.